10 o'clock. Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Transportation Committee for Tuesday, August 1st. Can I have roll call, please?
Chaplin. Here. Covert. Here. Evans.
Here.
Ozog.
Here.
Tornatori.
Here.
And Zay.
Here.
Okay, we have a lot on board or on tap today, so I'm going to start by turning this over to Chris and to welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, forgive me. I have chair's remarks here too. I forgot. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the DOT, our maintenance division, for assisting with the emergency response to the City of Macomb's weather-related cleanup 2 weeks ago. David Kohler, our highway maintenance supervisor, and 6 maintenance employees who traveled to Macomb to assist with the cleanup. 7 communities helped the City of Macomb, helped haul away 250 loads of limbs, branches, etc., from several neighborhoods within Macomb. The city was overwhelmed in the aftermath of this weather event, and I want to thank the DOT team. Having had experience with such emergency responses, they were able to help with not just the cleanup, but actually overseeing and helping to direct the response. So thank you very much. And
I just want to say that
turn it to Chris.
Sorry.
we are on
I know it's chair remarks, but
we're on tag team here.
No, I remember we got the call, and I remember Mike texted me, and they really needed a lot of help in Macomb. They didn't have a big pool to pull from because they all kind of went through those weather-related events. And so I talked to the IFMAN director, and he goes, boy, if you can send people, because we're getting one here, one there, we just need a full team response. And they remembered the response by maintenance in Ottawa, or I think Napanee or Ottawa. Yeah, Ottawa. And they, we went down there, we did the same thing, and we responded. So the guys went down there, spent the week there, stayed at beautiful Western Illinois campus, and shared it with a summer camp of 250 football players or whatever. But I really want to thank them for going down there and taking time out of their personal lives as well as here at the county and assisting the City of Macomb. That David called me afterwards. He goes, they were just overwhelmed by the response by the county. As a matter of fact, I think the city engineer was unavailable, and David kind of helped take a role to help coordinate and orchestrate that response. So thank you, David, and to all the guys that went down there and assisted. It shows it's a great showing for the county.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Next, we're going to move on to an employee retirement. Tom Hardy, after 33 years with DuPage County, is going to retire. We appreciate his service. 33 years. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a couple words to say on behalf of me or Tom. We'll get to our budget eventually. So Tom's been here since 1990, 33 years with the Division of Transportation. When Tom started, that was kind of the peak of the growth of DuPage County. Our system was expanding, population explosion, explosive growth as well as development. So he came at a great time. He started out in construction, which most people will do as a new engineer. You kind of inspect the work, kind of see what they're doing. Over time, he got involved on the design side. So back in those days, the engineers would design a project and then follow it in construction, build it, and then recycle that, the next year, and so on. So, as the system grew, so did the need for capacity and traffic control. And at one point, Tom was our traffic engineer. He was responsible for the design of our traffic signals, as well as following those into the field for construction. He's a snowplower, or was a snowplower for a while, got a CDL, several of the county administrative staff to support our maintenance team to run a 24/7 shift. We've got a lot of the engineers and other people, technicians, et cetera, that go and get their CDL to assist with snow and ice operations. Most recently, Tom has been our bridge program manager. So he's responsible for the inspection, the reporting of the condition of our bridges, coming up with repair schedules and plans, as well as the 220 retaining walls we have on our system. So I asked Tom what's he going to do in his retirement. He goes, I got a big plan. You wouldn't know some things about Tom. He's an avid skier. He actually does he used to race slalom. I watch it on TV. He's an avid bike rider. You can see him taking his bike sometimes to and from work. So I think he owes me some local gas tax because he didn't take his car. But he does love to travel. And he did mention that several years ago, he started what hopefully will be a long journey, and that he began a 50-mile hike of the 500-mile Camino Santiago Trail in Spain. And so he's got 50 miles under his belt, only 450 to go. So Tom, on behalf of DOT, we always do a sign, but not a street sign for you, since you are a bridge engineer. We put together kind of a little bridge to see how our bridges, they never overtop, the water's always low. So Tom, 33 years of service with the Division of Transportation, congratulations. His last day is Friday. Congratulations on 33 years.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you all.
Always a man of words.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, the only thing is that I'm just grateful for the privilege of having worked here. I love the work that I did, and also, and mostly I love the people that I worked with. There's a very good group of people. So, and I am looking forward to my retirement, but I also will miss everybody here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always a bittersweet day, but
Yes,
thank you,
it is.
Tom. Okay, next, do we have any public comments? We do. No. Okay. Okay, I move to approve the minutes of our meeting of July 11th, 2023. Okay, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Budget transfer. I move for approval of item 23-2501, budget transfer of $10,000 for construction engineering services to repair and maintenance other equipment, funds needed to repair traffic counting equipment. I have a second. Any questions? Thanks again, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, any questions about this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. All right, now we move to procurement requisitions. I move for approval of 23-2489. Recommendation for the approval of contract to Wholesale Direct to furnish and deliver automotive emergency lighting as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period May 11, 2023 through April 30th, 2024 for a contract total not to exceed $18,000 per low quote. I have a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move for approval of item 23-2304. Recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to John Thomas Company to furnish and deliver 12 portable traffic analyzer counters as needed for the Division of Transportation for a contract not to exceed $18,336, not suitable for competitive bids, sole source. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I move for approval of DTP 008923. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to V3 Companies Limited for professional construction engineering services for improvements along County Highway 4 Bloomingdale Road bridge over Chicago Central Pacific Railroad for the period of August 8th, 2023 to November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $641,743.81 professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with Local Government Professional Services Selection Act. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We now have a couple of change orders. I move for approval of 23-2292 Compass Materials decrease in close.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And item 23-2499 72-hour LLC doing business as Chevrolet of Watsonville decrease in close.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have some travel requests. Item 23-2469. Let me just see here just a moment here. Okay, we'll just go ahead. Item 23-2469, highway maintenance supervisor travel to Bloomingdale, Illinois from October 24th, 2023 through October 25th, 2023 to attend Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Conference. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Cost of $85. Sorry.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sorry.
can we combine all these?
I'm going to combine the next ones.
Okay, thank
Do these two. I move for approval of 23-2470, manager of highway operations to travel to Bloomington, Illinois, October 24th, 2023 through October 25th, 2023 to attend the annual Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network. Expenses $85.
Second.
Okay. And
think we can go a little higher on it. I mean, if we wanted to.
Okay.
Poor guys,
Next.
you know, $85.
That's all it is. 85.
$85. Okay. Next, I move
Yeah, we
to.
gotta vote.
I don't think we
We gotta
voted
vote.
on 10B.
Gotta vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. 10B, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, I move to combine items C through I.
Second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now I move to approve. These are retroactive. These are for our members who traveled to Macomb that we just. So I move for approval of item 232471, heavy equipment crew leader to travel to Macomb, Illinois, July 17th, 2023 through July 21st, 2023. Illinois Mutual Aid Network to assist with cleanup. Expenses will be reimbursed to the county. I move for approval of 2324 highway maintenance supervisor to travel to Macomb, Illinois. Same dates, and we will also be reimbursed to the county, or expenses will be reimbursed to the county. Item 232474 equipment operator 1 to travel to Macomb, Illinois. Same dates, we will be reimbursed. Item 232475 equipment operator 2 to travel to Macomb, Illinois, July 17th through July 21st, 2023, to assist with cleanup. We will be reimbursed. Item 232476, equipment operator 2 to travel to Macomb, July 17th through July 21st, to assist with cleanup. We will be reimbursed. Item 232477, equipment operator 2 to travel to Macomb, Illinois, July 17th through July 21st, 2023. We will be reimbursed. And item 232478, equipment operator 2 to travel to Macomb, July 17th through July 21st to assist with cleanup, and we will be reimbursed. Second. Mr. Zay.
Yeah, I mean, do we give them any additional comp time for this? I mean, they take time away from their families, they go down to help out. Do we have any kind of policy for that? I mean, for being down there? I mean,
Yes. They'll be compensated fully for their straight time and overtime to reflect actually what was worked out as a 24-hour payday.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
For being away from family and the like in emergency situations. So their room and board is taking care of expenses, but in addition, they got the county will pick up straight time, and then they'll each get overtime for the remainder of the full day.
Okay, great, thank you.
Can I ask, how does that work? Do places that have disasters like them come reach out to us and say, hey, we need some crews?
So we have an agreement through the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid System that the county executed. And so assuming that we're not also in the same response, that we have staffing and equipment available, the agreement kind of requires us to go assist our community partners.
So
Yeah.
they would come and assist us if we were in need.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha, thanks. Cool.
And these expenses should be reimbursed as it's noted by DuPage. Because the
And-
governor declared a disaster.
And is this Public Works Mutual Aid Network statewide virtually?
It is a statewide,
Pretty
not
much,
everybody
not
belongs
everybody.
to it, but
Okay.
DuPage County, DOT, Public Works, Stormwater,
Okay.
the county is a member of it.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to move to our presentation of the FY 2024 Division of Transportation proposed budget.
Okay,
Mr. Snyder
yes, thank you.
presenting his last
budget. I made it a big one.
Again,
6 figures I got it to.
bittersweet, right?
Ron, did you have an extra copy?
Of the budget, I do not.
That's fine. That's
You can
fine.
borrow mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll share with
Okay.
I'll share with Sam.
So in front of you, you should have the PowerPoint that we'll go through on the screen as well. Friday, I sent to everybody this spreadsheet, and it's a roll-up of all the DOT accounting units, motor fuel tax, local gas, and impact fee. And then companion to that, these are the detailed spreadsheets that come out of our budgeting software, OpenGov. So these were created straight from the software and provides a line item by line item detail of the FY. In the case of expenses, the FY 24 expenses for each of those county units in terms of revenue, it provides up to the 5-year projection for revenues as well. For today's purpose, I'm going to focus on the presentation as well as this kind of roll-up and give you kind of high-level overview, but any questions, please feel free to ask. So again, I said what's in front of you. Next slide. So DOT relies primarily on two revenue sources, local gas as well as the motor fuel tax. Both of those saw increases as part of the 2019 Rebuild Illinois program, but also the action by the board in 2020 as allowed by state statute to increase our local gas from 4 cents to 8 cents at the time. Impact fees, you'll remember the board actually repealed the collection, repealed the collection of impact fees back in May. While it's no longer a revenue source, we still have balances in the various accounts, so we still are required to budget for those and draw those down to zero. The other resources of funds, revenue, reimbursements, state and federal, those are oftentimes competitive and less reliant upon, as well as the infrastructure fund, also known as the RTA tax that you'll remember last year. We were the benefactor of $2 million from that RTA tax, but again, we don't really budget for it because it's at the board's decision.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chris. One quick question. As the motor fuel tax starts to change, obviously it's all used for roads and improvements and stuff. Is there any discussion about electric car vehicles that are actually running on the roads and deteriorating the roads, but aren't really paying into the tax base to maintain the roads and equipment?
Yeah, so, and I know this has come up, Member Zay has brought this up, we are seeing that as, well, Rebuild Illinois corrected 30 years of no increases, the last increase being 1989 or 90. But we do project, the state of Illinois projects that by the year 2040, if the state meets its goals for the conversion and the incentives to electrify our fleet, the way we fund transportation is going to have to change. Right now, EVs are charged, I believe it's a $150 registration fee. That's it. And then that's not going to be enough if everything goes to EV or a large percentage. Obviously, someone's going to have to look at changing how those funds are collected and distributed. Local agencies like DuPage, we do not share in any of those fees that the state collects. Title, transfer fees, we only collect in the motor fuel tax. So as that erodes because of fleet conversions or more mileage per gallon, we're going to see the revenue decreases. So I know the county engineers are watching that, and even the state of Illinois has done a study to look at the 20-year outlook.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. I think the state's attorney, we had looked into that. We don't have the authority to do it. So I was headed on their old business, since we have the chair of legislative here, that maybe we could on our legislative bring up the fact that maybe we should have a registration fee for electric cars. Starting out, there's about 10,000 in DuPage right now. Before there's 100,000. We can do something where we can do EVs and hybrids would be a number we could figure out, 150 and 50 for hybrid or something like that. But something maybe we can talk to as a legislative agenda item for Springfield. Because I'd rather start it now than, when it gets to it, when we're way behind it.
And then it seems typical that this is, you understand there is an impact and a fee. So.
And you're right, we talked about it, the electric vehicles are heavier than regular vehicles. They have more wear on the roads. So if we have to start looking at it at some point.
That would be proactive too. So okay. Thank you, Mr. Zay.
So moving on to the next slide. So here's a quick comparison of our revenue approved budget in FY23 and the projected revenue for FY24. So local gas tax, we do project an increase. The one thing Rebuild Illinois did is not only did they increase the MFT and it gave the ability for local agencies to increase the local gas tax, they also tied it to the CPI. So as the CPI increases, so at whatever percent, so would our local gas. So we are looking at about a $2 million increase in the local gas, and a big chunk of that is just due to the CPI. On the other hand, the state of Illinois is projecting a decline in motor fuel taxes because of some of the things we're talking about, fleets and conversions and mileage. So that's a slightly a little bit lower, FY24 versus 23. Impact fees, again, we're not going to collect it going forward, so that's zero. And then on the other column, We're not projecting as much of other being federal and local reimbursements and other things. One of the big things in 23, we were looking at selling, we have property right at 88 Warrenville and Naperville Road. And right now we were looking to sell that. And at this point, we've taken a back seat to that as we look to other property owners in the area, what they're doing with their properties before we look to put that on the market. Last time we checked what we bought it for versus what we could sell it for was really not going to be very beneficial to the county. So that's no longer being shown as a sale in FY24.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So Chris, you said you don't budget for the RTA tax. So last year we put 2 million in, that was the discretion of the board. So you did not, this is not in any of your figures. So if we were to put, a 2 million in, we'd get you back up to about that 68.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, great. I think it's just personally, the RTA tax was put in place for, transportation. So I think it's a good use of our funds. You could also use it for public safety, and we have been using the majority of it for public safety, but I think it's really nice that we've started allocating a very little bit of that RTA tax to transportation. So we'll talk about that in our budget, but thank you.
Next slide. This is, we'll move from revenue now to expenses. This is a 5-year look back of the expenses we actually incurred. So these are audited. So the maroon color, the brown color, that's personnel. We've stabilized our personnel, so that's good to see. Probably the biggest fluctuation we'll see on our operating expenses at any given year is the, I'll call it, I guess it's close to orange, but it's really, a lot of it deals with Mother Nature, weather-related events, and what kind of winter is she going to throw our way, and what does that mean in terms of response from whether it's overtime, whether it's gasoline, whether it's salt, et cetera. So that's where we see typically the biggest fluctuation in our expenses. The range is, at a low 2019, I think that was the pandemic year, up to now you can see we're kind of continuing to increase our expenses so that our operating budget, so it's non-capital, non-highway capital, so it would include equipment and things as around 18 million projected existing for 2022. Next slide. So this is some of our operating expenses, FY23 compared to FY24. And so this is in that roll-up spreadsheet. So I'll just give an overview of the differences. So the first one is personnel. We're projecting 12.6 million. Last year was approved for 11.8, so it's about a 7.3% increase. So that reflects a couple things. Number one, last year, between the COLA and the merit increases, many employees received up to a 6% increase. We're projecting or allotted for a 2% increase for 2024. In DOT, we're actually proposing to increase our headcount by 7. So within administration, so engineering, planning, finance, we're proposing 6 new headcount. That's 2 engineers, 2 planners, a traffic engineer, which we haven't had officially a traffic engineer in several years, as well as a technical support. And now a lot of that's aligned with our program. Our program has increased substantially since Rebuild Illinois, and to keep up with not just projects, but the coordination required around those projects, we need to look at staffing. On the maintenance side, we're proposing an increase in 1 headcount, a labor position. We're proposing to reclassify 3 individuals, as well as a single market adjustment within our department. So that's the 7.3% increase for DOT personnel. On the commodity side, a lot of it's just supply chain and just pricing. It's a 3% increase. A lot of it, nothing significant in those line items, just what we're seeing in the market, what we project our needs will be. Contractual, this is a big one. It's a huge increase. One of the bigger increases is some major improvements we need to actually do to our maintenance facility, our fleet facility. It's over 20 years old, and we have some major improvements to keep it operational. So that's a big chunk that you're not going to see again for another 20 years. We've also increased our contingency side of this budget up to, I think it's 1.5 million now, or I'm sorry, $1 million, just again to account for uncertainties in terms of market and pricing. Capital non-roadway, again, 19% increase. A good chunk of that, I think 2.5 million, maybe 3 million of that is carryover. So these are things that we ordered last year or even 22, and they still haven't come yet. So we got to keep carrying the dollar figures forward. Everything else in there is just going to be our regular purchases. And we'll get into the equipment purchases at the end of the presentation. We do have $750,000 a year in bond that we have to satisfy. So the total budget in terms of operating, about 25% more, 33 versus 27. And again, I think some of those are just those single line items, the major maintenance across the street in the facilities, but also we're carrying an extra $3 million worth of carryover vehicle purchases. Next slide. So here's our budget. So we want to know how much we have to capital. So we're going to look what cash do we have in the bank, what our projected revenue is. So the projected revenues from the prior slide, our operations budget, again, the previous slide, maintenance contracts. These are resurfacing, pavement marking, traffic signals, all the things we're going to do, as part of our day-to-day, as well as carryover. So the 19 million carryover, these are projects and encumbrances, whether it's engineering or capital, that we've committed to, or partner or agreements with other agencies that they haven't invoiced us yet. So at the end of the day, we have about 87 million available for capital in 24. Next slide. So overall, our budget is 103 million. It's about 11 million more than last year. Operations, about 32% of the budget. We're very capital intensive. And so 68% of our budget is toward capital. So money we collect, we turn around, put it back on the street for maintenance or improvement of the highway system. Next slide. Capital composes 4 items. It's engineering, land acquisition, construction that we let in award through the county board, or agreements between us and other agencies that we owe them money as part of our project. So next slide. So these are our engineering new starts. Not going to go through all of them in detail. There's 2 pages of these. A couple of things I do want to highlight for you. East Branch DuPage River Trail is shown for both planning and design. We're in the planning stage for the one segment between the Illinois Prairie Path and the Great Western Trail. A lot of local interest there. The section from the Prairie Path south to Butterfield Road, that is the grant we got through Congressman Caston, the Community Project Award for $1.5 million. So we're waiting for that to release, and then we hope to have a planning contract underway in 2024. The other item is our facility improvements. We have a need to replace the 140 building across the street. We do have an open contract to design the replacement of it. What we're finding is we're extremely constrained on that side of the street for us to build what we need. And so we're having to take a step back and revisit the building configuration, what's under roof, what's not under roof. Is it one building? Is it multiple buildings? The critical thing we have to deal with is that we operate either 24/7 during snow, winter season, and there is no other place in the county that we can operate 40 vehicles and 40 guys per shift and be able to maintain our vehicles without staying here somehow. So we actually have to build a new building and continue to operate out of the existing building, and that's what constrains us. Is where do we put it someplace so that we can go, so we can continue that winter operations. In the years that's going to be under construction. We expect it to be at least up to 2 years of construction. So that being said, we may be bringing something forward to this committee. Someone will be bringing it forward in 24 to maybe to revisit that contract and repivot for a different design. Again, going on the next page real quick. Again, these are all next phases of engineering. A couple I do want to point out. We got Finley Belmont, as well, Finley at Belmont at Ogden, as well as Naperville Road around 38. I want to point those out because those are partnerships between us and the state of Illinois. It's always fun when you do a project on a state route because you get them to pay 50%. So they take care of their legs, we take care of our legs. Got a couple major corridors next year: Lamont Road, 83rd, 87th, as well as Naperville Road south of I-88 in the Naperville area. A couple posted bridges: Geneva Road over the West Branch and Warrenville Road over the East Branch. We heard earlier today, and I know stormwater. They talked about project delays, capital improvement delays because of environmental reasons. And so both these projects do require substantial tree removal, and we'll deal with the tree removal and shifted these for other reasons. But that included right-of-way acquisition and coordination. I do want to mention Willowbrook Corners is on here. So we do show it as the sidewalk and street lighting, as I know that's an interest of the county. And so we are showing it as design engineering. We probably still have to figure out the funding for that work, but we are showing it as a design contract. And finally, the biggest project we'll have next year under construction is York Road. Irving Park to Devon. That's a partnership between us and the tollway. So the tollway is doing 390, 490, and they're at Western Access. It made sense that they would be the lead for the York Road project. So we will have an agreement coming through, hopefully soon, hopefully before November, that would memorialize the DOT's both design response costs as well as construction costs. Next slide. That's our construction contracts for next year. I will admit these are total construction projects. So where we have grant funding, federal funding, we did show the full amount to show the breadth of the types of projects we're putting on the street next year. Again, several bridges, many of them posted, will have construction next year. I mentioned Lamont, Naperville, and York Road projects as well. Okay.
Hi, Chris. I just have one question. So Naperville Road to Ogden, there's kind of that sliver by the CVS there and the coffee shop and stuff, and it's always like really bad, not upkept and just really bad for traffic. Is that a part of your Naperville Road? Ridgeland, I know, is north of there, and Deal is north of there, but has there been any consideration for the road that, you know, goes past the Bone of Beef there and this kind of dumps right into Ogden there by the...
So we'll address the Y intersection with this project. We'll take care of the capacity improvements and whatever the limit southward for resurfacing and transitions. This project will not get us into the Ogden Avenue intersection. It actually stops short. But from the county highway system, for our operations, it seemed that Y caused us more issues than once you get into Ogden, you've got 3 intersections very close by. It became a very challenging project that we would look for the state to be the lead, and whatever we're doing won't be incompatible with what they would do someday.
So I apologize. So up to Ogden Avenue, that area north of that would be addressed by the county.
Actually, we're probably, I would say, south of Ridgeland and whatever the transitions are. So we might get past, I know we get past the Bone of Beef driveways. I don't think we get it.
Tower Crossing entrance is roughly where it stops.
That's not good. Really, how do we get it safe and corrected? Because it's really bad there.
I guess we can look, I mean, if it's a maintenance issue, we can look into it under one of our other projects. But if it's something we may need to coordinate with the state, just because of where some of the, even though the responsibility for Ogden stops with the state and we have the responsibility north of there, there's going to be some interaction with them. So we can have a conversation with them and see what needs to be done. But we can talk.
That would be great, because we have a lot of people that cross there, and the crossing is dangerous right there. So that would be helpful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So the intersection you talk about the Naperville Plainfield Road and Ogden, right? So that job actually owned by the city.
Oh,
yeah. Really? No, it's not.
Not the one. Are you talking about the one by the Costco, or are you talking about Naperville Road proper?
Yes.
Yeah. We have Naperville Road, the one by the Costco. The naming gets weird there.
I know, it goes Naperville Plainfield. It shoots like that, but it's a shoot off that I'm talking about. It just
so yeah, we can talk afterwards. Make sure we know exactly.
Thank you.
Sure. Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question. Thank you.
Member Culver.
Thank you. I was just looking at the LED replacements, caught my eye, and I was just wondering, there were great ideas and plans that I heard in environmental committee regarding lighting and light pollution. So I was just wondering if we're working with the environmental committee on,
Bill?
Yeah, so this question came up, I think, a meeting or two ago. So these are for the traffic signals, so they're green, yellow, and red lamps, and so we're obligated to follow the federal requirements on the color.
Okay.
That industry is definitely working on the environmental aspects. I mean, already the LED, right, is more.
They're not
the
street lights.
The street lights are a separate topic that I know it just says LED replacements, but we've already converted all of our roadway street lighting to LED. We've tried to be sensitive to color temperature. I know what's coming out of environmental is maybe still more a lower temperature than what we've got. Again, we have a limit where we can work within, and we try to be as low in that limit, in that range that we can. We do plan to engage with them when something comes out of environmental, and to the extent we can adopt it, we will.
But you are constrained by the federal.
We are constrained by, yeah, there's a couple of different requirements. One is IDOT, one's federal. Because we're lighting a roadway, not a parking lot or, you know, some other less critically used.
So another topic for legislature with the federal government. There you go.
Bet you can. Aren't you glad you can?
Okay,
Any other
thank
questions?
you. Any other questions on this page? Okay.
Okay, next. So we talked briefly about our equipment request. You can see the top three at the total of $3 million. That represents carryovers from either 22 or 23 into 24. And then the remainder of the items, remember at a prior meeting, you did approve, you did give guidance, and we recently brought forward the semi-tractor. If we get our ducks in a row, we can actually get that in a build schedule, first quarter for next year. And so these are the rest of the items. These are normal turnover of equipment that we purchase. You know, we try to meet the amounts of our budget. Our equipment budget doesn't you know, have peaks and valleys. We try to manage that.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
I don't see any scales on here. I know we've talked about weight scales for years. Is there anything, a possibility of getting a couple? I mean, it seems like the surrounding communities way more than we do, and it doesn't seem like. I mean, I talk to lawyers who work for, you know, big construction companies, and they're waiting for the fines. I mean, we just don't find anybody, and it just seems like our roads, you know, get beat up because of it.
It's probably a question that involves the sheriff again, because purchasing a scale is one thing. It's having the detail to go out there and understanding how you can find and where they have to, you know, off-road, offload. How do you treat them if they're overweight? And maybe just understanding those logistics. I do remember one point through our ox cart, the software we have for overweight, overdimension, they actually offer training, you know, for scales and the like. And so we were going down that path. And then I think other priorities for the sheriff staffing or otherwise limited the ability to see that program through. So we'll reach out to Ed Moore and see where they're at with that and maybe have an internal conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, so I have a question for members. So what does that look like a weigh station, or are they
Portable.
portable?
Yeah, they're portable. They come out, they lay them out, comes on, they weigh the front axle, the back axle, and there's a weight limit on each. If you're over, then they find you. You got to offload, you got to do all other stuff. Bloomingdale has one. I think there's still one at St. Charles in '83. I think they still, that old state one's still there.
Yep.
So they're not stationary in one place, they're transported.
Those are main stations. Those are stationary, but you can do portables and you can do portable, and people do them. They'll do all of a sudden the state will pop up on North Avenue, 64 or some other places, and then pull trucks over.
Okay.
And are they just similar to a gas station signal? It's just a line in the road.
Yeah, you pull on top of it actually.
I think in the past we've worked with Carroll Street, maybe Bloomingdale, with the details specific to Gary Avenue or specific to a county highway. And you catch a couple, then they get on the ham radio.
Yeah.
Do they even have ham radios anymore? Anyway, maybe they've got Bluetooth. I don't know.
I mean, is it a source of
I
significant
think
revenue?
you just dated yourself.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
I see a lot of semis on County Farm. You know, we know in just south of Schick there, the railroad tracks that are beat up all the time, but always, I mean, there's big semis going on. I mean, they have to have local deliveries, but I think since 390 went to the tolls, we see a lot of people trying to maneuver and get around paying tolls with the larger trucks. So
Where did you say Route 83 and which street?
St. Charles Road.
St. Charles. Okay.
That's a permanent state.
It's a permanent state scale. It's been there for forever. Probably.
Okay. All right,
There's
I'm
one on
putting,
Gary.
I'm
One Gary Avenue, just north of Army Trail.
keeping a list of things to talk to Mr. Snyder about. I just made it, so.
Well, I
Okay,
think I do,
Thank you. we've
Yeah,
talked about it for
it's
years. We always,
definitely
oh, the
something.
sheriff, this and that. At some point, we got to get our eggs in
Yeah.
a row here and talk about doing it.
okay,
And we talk about doing it municipal members too. I mean, it wouldn't be, because we share a lot of our roads through municipalities.
okay,
I think once the word got out and we maybe did some enforcement, maybe it would curtail some of the overweight trucks.
I know the townships do have their own weights. They do fine, but the townships do it on their road.
No, well, that's through the sheriff. It's the sheriff's.
through our
details.
sheriff.
oh, okay,
Oh, okay.
okay, so that will be on my list.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right,
okay, next slide. So now let's give a high level overview for our 5-year highway improvement plan. So next slide. So a 5-year outlook. This is budget. So it's about exactly 407.3 million. Again, our operations about 33%. That's the day-to-day stuff. Capital continues to be the biggest chunk of it at about 270 million over the next 5 years, and then a little bit of debt service. To see what that looks like on an annual element, next slide. So see FY24, you kind of see that that's kind of high, and that's as I mentioned earlier, we have several projects for a myriad of reasons that could not be built in 23. They will carry over to 25. 25 is a little bit low, and that's as we ramp up for some major projects in the 25, 26, 27, including Fabian Parkway, reconstruction at Atlantic York Road, our 140 building being replaced as well. So we'll see a ramping up in the middle years of the 5-year, and then we'll return to basically a maintenance budget, really shown as a maintenance budget in 28 as it's currently projected. 2 other budgets that the DOT has, I didn't present on them. Townships, since they are allotted MFT by statute, the county is the holder of their MFT, so we hold their money. And so anytime they expend MFT, we're really a fiscal agent. It's a pass through, there's no county cost. And so those are held on deposit. So we did develop a budget for that based on their projected improvements next year. And finally, the other one is the Century Hills Lighting District. Several years ago, this small lighting district, Lisle Township, we consolidated into our traffic signal maintenance contract. So kind of an economy of scale. So again, no county cost. We keep the funds separate. The money comes through. They have a tax levy. It's about $20,000 a year. We turn that money around to pay electric on their behalf, as well as any improvements to the street lighting system. The ultimate goal someday is to build enough of a pot of money to do a meaningful capital project to replace those, because it is a hodgepodge of signal poles. So, but we are trying to build up something and work with the community on the replacement of those at some future date. And that's the DOT FY24 budget.
any questions?
Yes, Lundin, if you can send me a copy of that and then.
Yeah, this one.
Oh,
Thank you, Chris. Any questions? Any further questions? Have a look.
Just a quick question. Chris, have you gone over this budget with finance already? Has it been gone through with finance?
It's been submitted, but we haven't sat down with them. Okay. I know some of the staff will, if they see something, they'll give us a call, but okay. I kind of send it to them and wait for them to maybe reach out to me to see, if something doesn't look like it's not aligned with revenue. Right. Or if they want to give me RTA money, that's fine too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chris. I have questions, but they will hold for the rest. That was great. Thank you so much for all of that. Next, we have old business, dump trucks. I'm going to turn that over to Chris first.
Yes.
And then.
So we just saw the presentation. We have 2 dump trucks shown for purchase next year. Mike's been able to research with his fleet manager. There is a build slot for first quarter 2024. It'd be really great to get in that build slot because we don't want to open again. Similar to what we asked this committee in June, if there's guidance for us to proceed with that 2024 procurement now, submit the paperwork, get a build slot. It actually won't, they're not coming until sometime later in 24, so it actually won't expensive, but at least it gets, we'll bring a procurement, the requisition formally through committee and board, like we did with the semi truck last meeting. But I'm just looking for committee guidance for us to go ahead and get that build slot. We heard in multiple committees today that the vehicle purchases, equipment are, supply chain and just production is down. And so anytime we can get the opportunity to get a build slot, we'd like to take advantage of it. So that's the guidance of the committee. Certainly like to proceed with that and get something before this committee next meeting or two to get that build slot. 2 dump trucks, 200,000 total, 100,000 each.
Any objections? I think it's a good idea to take this slot when we can get it. So everyone's in favor?
Yes.
Proceed. Sounds good. Any other old business? Member Culver, did you have? Okay. All right. Any new business? Okay, hearing and seeing none. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.